Hi, how's everybody doing today? So, showed you this last week and I said I'd come back this week and show you how I created this. I'm calling it the Journal Tutorial Organizer because I need to keep my tutorials all in one place. And it turned out so nice. I thought it could also be a journal. You just swap out what you might use as your insert. Hi, Marcy. Hi, Alice. It's a good day here. It's not snowing, so that's good, but it's cold. So we won't talk about the weather anymore. Hello, Heather. So I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough, and I changed one thing since I made this one, and I made another one using scraps, and I'll show you what the change is. It's a very small change, so it just gets down to preference. So like I told you last week, there's this accordion pocket that's on the front. So I'm going to just lift it up so you can kind of see it. And I thought you could put your pens in there. You could also put some Post-it notes in there. You could put a pad of paper in there. You know, it's 4 inches wide. And from the top of this to the bottom of this is 5.5. So there's lots of room to keep your stuff. I just decided that pens would be the good thing. Is it cold in Montana? Yeah, it's cold. It's actually very cold here. We shouldn't have snow yet. It's just a crazy, crazy year. Anyway, so when you open it up, or maybe I should just tell you a little bit more. The cover on it, I'm so excited about this. The cover on it is 8 3/4 by 6 3/4, and it's got a 1.5-inch spine. I use the lay flat method to make my covers, so that's what I'll be showing you in the actual project. So there's front, there's the back, or the spine and the back. And what I used to create this was Tammy's Country Craft Creations collection, Bloom Where You're Planted. I believe that's the name of it. For some reason, I've just lost it for a second. But you know what? You could use any paper you have, just whatever you think you want to cover it with. Is go with that. You need between 5 and 6 sheets of cardstock or pattern paper. And that's because if it's got a direction, well, you want to cut it with the right direction, right? If it's not directional, I use like 4. But when it's a directional paper, you definitely need the 5 sheets. And of course, a little sentiment, be kind to yourself, is what I put on here. And I thought, isn't that kind of perfect about what we should do for ourselves is be kind. Hi, Marguerite. Hi, Anna. So you haven't missed anything. I just gave a little measurement. I haven't started even making it yet, so you're all good. So when we open it, I'm just going to take this out because I didn't want to forget to show you that. When you open it, because I want to use it for tutorials, or I'm going to use this one for tutorials. Of course, what's better to put in there but the CCC tutorial little booklet that Tammy sells in the shop. But any A6 book will fit. You might just have to adjust the belly band that's holding it in place a little bit. And what I mean by that, you might have to give it an extra little gusset and finagle it that way. Now this one slips in quite nicely. But when I made my second one for some reason, which is this one, and decorate it like so, this particular book is being a little bit more picky about going in. It will, because I've had it in here at least once, but it's just a little bit more finicky. So, and they're exactly like they're exactly the same size book. So I don't know what the issue is with this one, but I'm not worrying about it because I have lots of options. So any A6, sorry, I'm just dropping stuff on the floor. Any A6 booklet, and I'll give you the dimensions, will work. And this particular one, so if I don't include the rings, which I think I should include the rings, it's 6 by 8.5. So any A6 book, even an I think they're called A5 books, will probably fit. Go to Amazon because that's where I got these ones, which are really great for journaling because they've got a little weather thing going on, days of the week. You can date it. And these are definitely an A6 because, like I say, that's what I ordered off of Amazon. And I'm a little leery to give you my link because my link, of course, is for Amazon Canada, not Amazon US. So, but just go and look, you'll find them. And it's like 8.25 by just slightly less than 6. So that's where this one came from. But like I say, Tammy does sell these in the store. And if you want to use it for your tutorials, I say go buy one of these. All right, so now I'm going to show you the rest of it. So I'm just going to take the booklet out for a second. I'm going to lay it up here because I'm going to want to refer back to it. So this is the belly band I created, and it is 3 inches wide. So the cardstock is 3 inches wide. And then, of course, I cut my pattern paper down to fit. Now, this is what I changed. So originally when I made this booklet, I had the flap opening this way and the pocket here. But in the other booklet, I'm going to show you, I flipped it. Hello, Linda. Nice that you could join today. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Susan. So that's one little thing. It's also an accordion pocket, so it gives you lots of room to put Post-it notes or anything else you think you want to put in that pocket. So that is basically what we're going to make, and it's that simple. It's super simple. Great gift idea. Throw some pens in it, and there you go. You're set. You've got a made gift for somebody, especially if you know they journal or a fellow crafter. It's absolutely perfect for all of those things. So I'm just going to put my booklet back in this one because I'm also going to be referring to my measurements, which I started with this one. I thought, what's the most appropriate thing I could be starting this new organizer with? How about the instructions to this project? So I'm just going to set this up here, and hopefully it's not going to be too much in our way. I'm just going to move my board down just slightly. And yes, I love this board. I love it because it gives me some light. It's perfect for me. It helps with my eyesight, and I kind of showed this last week, so I'm not going to do it again this week. But it's got a self-healing mat, and then it's got a glass mat. So, and it's the Caterpillar Glow is what the light is. Self-healing mat comes with this, and then you can buy the tempered glass separate. Tammy does sell them in the store, so check it out. And I'm going to leave it at that because I'm supposed to be doing a tutorial today. So now I just want to put this back in here. So literally what I made this one out of was some scraps I had from a project I had done eons ago. It's an old Echo Park collection that's Tammy doesn't have anymore, but I went, let's see, how many pieces of pattern paper does it take? Now this one I used 4 because it's not directional. Same thing, I put a pocket on the front of it. There was these words of wisdom that do more of what makes you happy, which I thought was great. And they come together so easily. And then what I did is I decorated the front of it, that little booklet. So all you could do is just decorate the front of it. This kind of bugs me a little bit, but I haven't figured out a way to hide it. But it is what it is, right? If you want the wire wrap, then you're going to have to suffer with that. If you don't want the wire wrap, like if you took an A2 book, you could cover the front and the back because that's like a traveler's notebook. So that's what I did on this side. And then here's where I switched up. So remember I said in the first one, the pocket opened to the right? No, the flap opened to the right and the pocket was on the left. I reversed it on this one. And I think I like this better. Okay, so my tutorial today is going to have the pocket sitting over here on the right hand side of the inside of the front page, and then the flap on the left. And I'm using 2 small magnets, and it works perfect. I have some extra ones in my stash right now that I need to use up, and I thought, let's use that. And like I say, I just kept it really simple because I thought, what a great journaling gift to give to somebody. So this is what we're going to create. So let's get organized and get started, because we've got to cover our covers and our spine. And I got to give you measurements for all that stuff. So let's start with our chipboard, okay? So we need 2 pieces of chipboard. Turn them over to this side. Oh, that's not good either, but it's nice that they're carrying the groceries inside, Heather. You know, I could go for freezing for a couple of minutes if I had kids that were carrying groceries, but my kids don't live with us. They're grown adults now. All right, so let's get started. So our 2 pieces of chipboard that are the front and back cover, they measure 6 3/4 by 8 1/2, and I did 2 of them. I already put my dry adhesive on the back side of them. I've already burnished it all, just kind of speed things up a little bit. And I'm just going to set them aside for a minute because I'm going to give you the spine measurement next. So this spine, you need 1 piece of chipboard that measures 1 1/2 by 8 1/2. So you need 2 that measured 6 3/4 by 8 1/2. So you got to be writing this down today, guys. And 1 that measures 1 1/2 by 8 1/2. But you know what, Heather? When your kids move out, it's a whole different thing. It's all good. You'll get to the other side. Anyway, so now we need the cardstock that I'm going to use to wrap the front back cover. And it measures, so you need 2 of these. They measure what am I doing here? I'm doing 10 1/2 by 8 3/4. So 10 1/2 by 8 3/4. So you need 2 of them. And then I need 1 that measures 4 1/2 by 10 1/2. So that's the one for the spine. And that's what we're going to start with here, because I always tend to start with my spine. And then I work on the front and back cover. I don't know why. Something about it gives it time to dry. I don't really understand that, but it's what I started doing, so it's what I do. All right, and I'm bringing up my scoreboard because I'm going to use it like one of the tools in my toolkit. I'm going to lay in my piece of cardstock that measured 4 1/2 by 10 1/2. I'm going to get out my awesome spacers. 1 and 2. So because I'm making the spine for when we attach the book all together, the rule of thumb is whatever my spine width is, so this spine is 1.5 inches wide, I add 3 inches to it. It doesn't matter what your spine is. Your spine can be 5 inches. You're going to add 3 inches to it. So the pattern or the cardstock is going to be 8 then. So, you know, if your spine is 3 inches wide, add 3 inches. Your cardstock is going to need to be 6 inches wide then. And it's so you have wings. That's what that's all about, is making sure you've got the wings on either side. You know what? I was good when my kids left home. They were ready. They had the skills they needed. It was time for them to go out and start their adventure. And I think that's how we have to look at it. We can't dread it. We have to look at it as it's a new chapter, and it's going to be an amazing time in their life, and we get to see what happens. So I am taking my piece of chipboard, laying it down, and I've butted it right up to the 1 inch spacer at the top and the 1.5 inch spacer at the side, because that's what gives you your wing, is that 1.5 inches on either side of the spine piece. So I'm just going to put these away, or this one away. And then I'm going to give it a quick burnish. And I'm just going to remove my scoreboard because I find now that I'm using the light board that I really have embraced working on this surface. I only bring my scoreboard in if I need to use it as a way to keep things straight. So I'm folding over my cardstock over the chipboard, and I really do let the chipboard kind of work for me. So I folded it that way. You want to fold the top and the bottom. And again, like I say, I'm using and this way. And then what I like to do is I like to fold it back on itself and give it a good burnish. Like so. And there we go. There is the spine. Now I'm going to take my scissors and there we go. Looking at my camera or my computer. You want to cut right along this line and right along this line. That's what you're going to do. I think that's a good angle. It's hard to tell. There we go. So you're going to cut along those two fold lines that you created. So I'm going to cut up to about 1/16 of an inch away from that chipboard. So right to about there. Rotate and then cut down to it on the other fold line. So there's one. And then I'm going to repeat it on the other side. So basically what I'm going to remove is all 4 rectangles. And I'm just cutting on my fold line. And don't cut through it because then they're going to make like a little hole and you don't want to do that. And then the other side. And last one. And this is what you should end up with. So this is our good side. This is our bad side. So we're going to start by just mitering these 1-inch tabs that are on either end. And I'm going to just slightly miter them. So I do have to turn my work around and do the other end. And last one for right now. There you go. And this is what you should end up with. So this is your good side facing up. And I am going to take my burnishing tool. And I'm just running my burnishing tool right along the edge of the chipboard on the good side of your project or the pattern paper. Because I just want to get a real indent of where the edge of that chipboard is, because that will help me when I go to line up my front and back cover. Like so. And then we're going to get out some dry adhesive. I know some people use liquid glue. I make a big mess, I admit it. So I use some dry adhesive. And I try to stay about between about a 1/16 of an inch away from the edge where I was burnishing to get the definition of the edge of the chipboard. And then we're going to turn it. And I'm going to do the other side. And then I'm going to put away this big wide tape. Like so. And then I can get rid of this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a smaller piece of tape. Try and knock over them. This one right here. Maybe this one. I'm using 1/4 inch for this. And I'm going to run it right along the edge of the cardstock. And I'm using craft today. You could use whatever color you'd like to use. Craft seems to be the one I tend to lean towards when I'm making covers. I think it's because I dirty white. I make a mess of white. And craft is fairly neutral, so it works for me. But again, you're creating this, so you get to use whatever color cardstock you would like to use. And I am burnishing well. Okay, now we're going to turn it back over, and we're going to glue down these 1-inch tabs. And it's going to go like this. I always put a bead of glue on the cardstock right along the edge of the chipboard. And fold it up, fold it down. Clean up any mess I've created. And turn it around. And we're going to do this again on the other side. And then I'll just check for comments. So remember, have something to write down. And remember, this stays recorded. Hello, Liz. Hello, Susan. Hello, Julianne. I always think I say your name wrong. I probably do. I probably make a big mess of it, and I apologize for that. All right. So what you're left with is that's what you've got. So we want to miter our wings, but I don't want to miter them. I don't want a drastic miter. I just want a nice thin little strip taken off. So I butt my scissors up against the chipboard. I just pivot them slightly and I miter it. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to repeat the same thing. Pivot slightly. And then again. So you keep moving your project or your paper so that you're always working away from the chipboard. Because if you work away from the chipboard, you're less likely to cut into, let's say, right here and make an oops in your project. So right about there. So you don't cut into the cardstock that you're going to be folding, or that becomes the folding mechanism. Thank you. All right, so there is the spine taken care of. So we're going to set it aside. Just going to put it over here. And then I'm going to bring in my front and back cover. So the chipboard and the cardstock. Remember, I already gave you the measurements. These chipboard pieces are 6 3/4 by 8 1/2. The cardstock is 8 3/4 by 10 1/2. So you're adding 2 inches to the width, and you're adding 2 inches to the length. All right, so let's get started with one. And I'm going to bring that scoreboard back into my workspace. It's going to be like that. This time what I want is I want my 1-inch spacers. So just push the cardstock right up into the corner of the crease board or scoreboard, whatever you happen to be using. And I'm going to remove, so I've already burnished all of this. I've done a really good burnish on my score tape that I added to the back of my chipboard. And then I'm going to start peeling it back. So there's 1 and 2. I'm trying to use up some rolls of score tape that I have because I don't seem to use as much as I once did. So I'm trying to work my stock down so I can get new stuff. All right, and here we go. So we're just going to butt this chipboard up to that top spacer, and then we're going to lay it right down against the spacer that's on the left-hand side. So here's another use for this particular organizer journal. Let's say you're going to have a surgery. You could do all your recording, keeping all your notes together about your upcoming surgery. Hi, Denise. Just thought of that one as I'm sitting here or standing here. So you're going to burnish that chipboard, or on the cardstock side, we're burnishing it so that we have good coverage and it's not going to pop up and all that fun stuff. So now we're going to just start. We're going to fold. Just going to get this tool. Yes, actually, I do like it, Marguerite, but I actually really like the score sheets too. So it's kind of one of those things, score sheets or wide rolls of score tape. It's a tough one. And the 2 sides. And 1 more. Like so. And here's what you've got. And so those of you that watch me do this, when I'm constructing, you know, now I'm going to cut out my 4 squares. I saw a message from one of our scrapbooking friends about they were looking for a really easy project to start with. And I went, that's a tough one, because we all the designers kind of give you all the basics every time. At least I think we all do. And so I think you could probably start with any project. Start with the one that sings to you. That's how I would say it. There we go. No, 1 more. I only did 3. I need 4. So again, work our way up and turn. And we're only going to about a 1/16 of an inch away from that chipboard. We don't go right up to it. We're about a 1/16 of an inch, 32nds of an inch. You don't want to get right up to it. Oh, there you go. I never thought of it like that. Do I use... Okay. I like that idea, Marguerite. I'm just not sure if that would work for me here, because score sheets are expensive, tape is expensive. So here's what I'm left with, and now I got to do some mitering. I think we each have to do what we need to do. That's how I look at it. So again, I'm just putting my scissors right up against the edge of the chipboard, mitering slightly, and then I'm just going to work my way around. And again, I'm cutting away from the chipboard, not to the chipboard. I just find that's easier for me, and then I don't end up with holes. But if you've got another idea, another way to do it, do what works for you. This is just what works for me. because I have tried a couple of times to use the new way, or Tammy's new way of attaching her spine to her covers. So far, it's not working for me. I end up having to take it apart and do it again because it ends up being too far away. So for now, I'm going to stick with what works for me. And this is what you're left with. So I'm going to turn it sideways. So your long side, so you now have your 8.5 going left to right. And all I say about this, if you, whatever side you start with, you do the opposite side. That's my only rule of thumb with this. So because I'm starting with the 2 shorter sides, I'll do the 2 short sides first, and then I will do the 2 long sides. And burnish it well. I always run my burnishing tool along the edge of the chipboard that's been covered. Now I'm rotating it to the other end, so I'm working on the other short side. And so on. And I just fold it over and I give it a good burnish. Like so. Looking good. Now I'm going to rotate. And again, I'm now working on the 2 long sides. And add my glue. It looks like I'm adding lots, but really I'm not. Burnish. Good. Like so. And rotate. And last side, and then we'll do the other cover. And burnish. Okay. And there's one cover. One cover down, one cover to go. So again, I'm going to bring my score tool, my crease back in here. Lay it on my light board so I can still see what I need to see. So I'm putting my piece of cardstock in my scoreboard with an 8 3/4 across the top and the 10.5 down the side. I should have told you that on the first one. I didn't, but I'm thinking it was probably obvious. It can really only go one way, or should only go one way. Again, I've added my adhesive. I've burnished it all, and now I'm just going to use my little picky tool and remove it. And the bigger piece. And then, again, we just butt it up against that top spacer and the side spacer, and voila. And then we can put the spacers away, and they're not in our way. I'm somewhat keeping my table clean. Well, at least what you guys can see of it's clean. And I'm giving it a good burnish. I'm going to get my crease out of the way. I'll bring it back up in a few minutes because I didn't even do my scoring today because I want to show you just how nice it is to score on the crease. How having this light behind it is amazing. And then do the two long sides. Give it a good burnish because you want to make sure you got nice fold lines so that when you're cutting out those squares, you can see what you're doing. So there's what we're left with. And again, we are going to cut up, not to the chipboard, so about an 1/8 of an inch, or 1/16 of an inch, I should say. Take your time. When they fall out like that, I always go, that's what I wanted it to do. Because then you don't end up with little burr that you have to deal with at some point in the future. 2 for 2. That's amazing. And then 3. Did you see the new 2 new releases that came out yesterday? CCC, the Snowman and Friends, and the school paper. I have the Snowman and Friends. I don't have the school paper yet, but they're gorgeous as usual. So now we want a miter, just like we did the last time. Just a small little sliver. It doesn't have to be anything huge. Less is more. And I've got one more after this to take care of. Last one. Not sure what I'm going to use to finish this one off with. All this side of my way. All right, so I'm laying it so that the 8 3/4 is left to right. We're going to need those again, so let's not really get rid of them. And I got a whole bunch of build up on the end of my glue, so just give me a second to get rid of it. That happens because I got this little stand over here that my glue stands in, and sometimes a little bit runs out and it starts to build up over time. But I much prefer my little stand to the pins. I was constantly losing the pin, constantly bending the pin. Hello, Tammy. We're making a journal / tutorial organizer. There's one end, and now we're going to rotate to the other end. Add our adhesive. And voila. Need something to take care of the glue. Carried away. With a good burnish. And rotate. So I've got the 2 long sides now. And burnish. And they're telling us we're going to get some more snow, so I'm not impressed. We shouldn't have snow yet. For heaven's sakes, 2 weeks ago, we had sweater weather. Now you wouldn't dare go outside without a coat, hat, mitts. I've been too softened from where I live. Can't deal with winter starting in November. and burnish. And there is your front cover, your back cover, and your spine completed. And even if I take the total time from when I started, in less than 45 minutes. Very good. So these, like I say, this little organizer comes together quite quickly and is super nice to work with. So I'm bringing my score tool back in, so my crease back in. Just want to burnish. I tried doing it the way you showed me, Tammy, at the retreat to attach my spine and my cover. I'm not getting it. And we want to, so all we're going to do is we're taking the one cover, laying it on top of the spine, and I just drag it until I feel it drop down. And then I'm using my edge of my score tool as a way just to make sure that everything is in the right place. And it is. It's one isn't taller than the other, even though I already checked that when I cut the chipboard. I sometimes like to double check. Remove the backing. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat that, only I'm going to hold it up a little, pull it down, lay it down, stand it up, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a nice, even, I have to get the right angle here, finish. So there's one side completed, so give it a good burnish. And then we're going to just move it to the other side. So I've got my other wing. Here comes in my other cover. I just want to lay it down and make sure everything is nice and square, which it is. Lift. And just repeat. And there's your second cover. And all you want it to be is you want it just to be flush. And these are, so I'm happy. They're a little wiggly right now because I don't have my spine reinforcement piece in, but I do want to give it a good burnish. And then rotate and do the same thing here. And then I'm going to bring in my spine reinforcement piece and give you that measurement. And that spine reinforcement piece, it measures, get this score tool out of the way for a second, it measures 6 by 8 3/8. So the 8 3/8, so that's the tick mark past the quarter mark. I've added adhesive to the back of this piece of cardstock. And so what you want is you want the edge that is 8 3/8 to go from the top of the book to the bottom of the book. And then the 6 inches is just the left and right side. And I tried to make it when I'm measuring for my spine reinforcement piece. So I'm 4.5. I kind of add another 1.5 inches, 2 inches to it. And that's where I got 6, because I didn't want to cut into the other side of the 6 because I could use it if I didn't do that. Anyway, so you can just measure it if you want, or dry fit, which I'm happy with that. So let's pull back the backing. And I did burnish all of this. Be done with that. So if my head gets in the way, I apologize, but I have to be able to see top and bottom, side to side. And when I'm happy, I lay it down. And I'm going to give it a good burnish. All right, now I prefer using this bone folder to actually fold my front cover and my back cover. Don't know what it is about this one, but I think it's because it's more knife-like and it allows me to get it right into that crease. Because that's the other thing. You want to make sure that this piece of spine reinforcement is adhering to the flap that you had, the spine flap or the spine wing. And I always stand it up and I look at it, and if it's still nice and flush, I know I did a good job of laying it in the right spot. And I'm just repeating on the other side. Now be careful that you don't make a hole. Don't use the tip is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Take a look. And there is the cover of our project done. That is how easy this is. So there's your lay flat cover completed. Just going to move a few little things out of my way. And I love it. I love covers. I absolutely love covers because to me, that's what keeps everything together. If you take a little extra time on your cover, the rest of your project will go well, in my opinion. You can still put a flap on the wrong way, but you know what? That's just a reason to decorate. So there is our cover completed. And I'm just going to set it aside for a second because we've got to talk about some measurements. And I'm also going to remove both of these mats off of my glow light so that my my crease is going to lay right on top of it. I should have done this earlier. I realize it's got some dust on it. Oh well. So let me get my crease back up here. Yes, that is exactly what I wanted to do. All right, so we got the crease in here, and now we're going to start doing our scoring. And we're going to start with the belly band that goes on the right inside back cover. So it is a piece of cardstock measured 3 by 9.5. And with your 9.5-inch side across the top of your scoreboard, you are going to score at 1/2. And because I'm using Artisan, I know I can give it a couple of rollovers with my scoring tool. Yes, the crease comes with a scoring tool, but I prefer my smaller stylus. That's just me. It works just fine. It's a choice. And again, with the 9.5-inch side across the top of the scoreboard, I am scoring at 1/2. All right, let's burnish those score lines. And this one. Now I'm just going to leave my crease here. Bring the project back in. And what I'm doing is I'm centering this belly band left to right on the back cover. You could measure it. You can eyeball it. Whatever works for you. And in this case, I'm going to eyeball it. I'm going to start with the side that was closer to me. I'm not mitering anything. And I'm just going to take care of any overflow of glue. And there's one. Now I'm going to turn everything completely around so that I can do this other side. And then I'm going to add more adhesive to that 1/2-inch tab. And then I'm just going to pull it down, making sure everything's nice and straight. Take my burnishing tool, give it a very good burnish on both ends. Now you just want to make sure that if any glue, you're not going to have a case of it sticking. Looks good. And this way. And there's your belly band. that the book is going to slide under. So your whatever book you decide to put in it, whatever A6 book you're going to decide to put in it, it will just slide in. Hang on here, just making sure nothing's stuck. It should slide in fairly easy. Like it's gonna be, you know, you're gonna have to wiggle it in a little bit, but it's because it's brand new. It's never had any paper slid under it like that, so it's, you know, but it's got a little bit of room on either side, which is I like that too. And remember, this one comes off of Amazon. Just look for any A6, and I gave you the measurements earlier in the tutorial. So it's about 8 1/4, including the rings. It's about 5 3/4 roughly. Or you can get one of Tammy's tutorial books and use it like a tutorial organizer, which is what I did in my original. All right, so now we're going to work on what goes on this inside cover. And like I said to you, I am going to put the pocket up against the spine, and I'm going to have my flap that opens here on the left-hand side of the inside of this. Okay, so we're going to work on this. So I'll give you the measurements for what we need. We have 2 pieces that we need. So the first piece we're going to need is the flap. Let me open my organizer again. So the flap measures 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. And with the 5 1/2 inch side along the top of your scoring tool, you are going to score at 1/2. Like so. So there's the flap you're going to need. We'll burnish all this in a second. Now your second piece is what's going to make that little accordion pocket. And it is a piece of cardstock that measures 4 1/2 by 11 1/2. So with a 4 1/2 inch side along the top of the scoreboard, you are going to score at 1/2 all the way down. And then you're going to rotate it so that the 11 1/2 inch side is along the top of your scoring tool. And you're going to make 2 score lines. You're going to score, no, 3, sorry. You're going to score at 1/2, 1, and 1 1/2. And then you're going to completely rotate it around. So you still have the 11 1/2 across the top of your scoring tool. You are going to score at 1/2. And see, this is what I like about this scoring, this crease, is I don't know if you guys can see it. Yeah, you can. When I'm looking at my my Facebook feed, I can see it. You see just a little bit of light up in here coming through. And I find what that does for me is it just lets me really see where this score line is, or where the little indent is for the score. So we did a score at 1/2. We are going to score at 1. And we are going to score at 1 1/2. Now there's a couple of other ways you can make these accordion pockets. This is the one that works for me. If you know another way of making them and you like that way, I say continue making them like that. Okay, so I'm just going to bring up this tool. Whoops, let's turn it around. I have one more little bit of scoring to do, but I just want to work on my nice surface here. So I'm taking the flap. I'm going to burnish all those score lines. And remember what I've said, I like to fold. I like to have my 1/2 inch tab on the underside, and then I fold over the larger piece of paper. And I find what this does is it keeps for a straighter score line for me. And now I'm just going to miter these 1/2 inch tabs because this flap goes completely across the book. So there's your flap. I'm not going to round my corners yet because I like to round them after I have everything assembled. Okay, so again, this is a little longer piece, so it's a little trickier to fold on that 1/2 inch score line, but you can do it. Burnish it well. Then what I like to do is I like to start with the score line. Yes, actually it does, Susan. So there is my glass mat sitting on my glow. And then I actually have the self-healing mat on top of it. So let me do this. Let me lift off the glass mat. Careful I don't drop it. And then I'll put just the self-healing. So if you buy the glow, you also get the self-healing mat with it. So that's what I like about it. This self-healing mat is definitely that. I've actually, for those of you that know me, are going to be shocked. I've actually cut on this and I'm still okay. Because if you know me well enough, you know that I have some OCD issues, just 1 or 2. Okay, so we folded on that 1/2 inch tab. Now we're going to work on folding these 3 score lines. And what I like to do is I like to open up that 1/2 inch tab on the bottom. I like to start with the score line that is closest to what's going to make the pocket. It's just my preference. And then what I do is I flip it over. I gently fold it back on itself, and I fold it back again. And then I turn everything over, hold it with my finger, and then I gently burnish those 3 score lines all at the same time. And I just find that I get a better fold, and everything seems to line up better for me. You know what? I love this. I absolutely love this, Susan. I feel very privileged to have one in my scrapbooking world. And what the selling feature for me for the glow was being able to have that light behind my work. Because as I've said before, when I'm using that white piece of paper, I have old eyes. I need to be able to see the edges of my work. So let's repeat this on the other end. I'm using the Caterpillar Glow, Denise. Tammy's selling them at countrycraftcreations.com. And they're amazing. And they come with this self-healing mat and actually the glow that comes as all one item. And the rest is, like I say, it's I love it. Okay, so we fold it over right on the edge of the pocket. Now I'm taking those other score lines and gently folding them back on each other. And then I'm folding it all the way over. And then I'm using my score tool. Okay, and so this is what you should have, something that looks like this. Only by the time we're done, it's going to be looking like that. You're welcome, Denise. Now we've got to do some cutting. And I think the easiest thing for me to do today is actually kind of draw what it is we want to cut out. So there's the score line that's closest to the pocket itself. And here's that 1/2 inch tab that we put along the bottom. We are going to cut out these 3 little almost squares. They're still more rectangle than square. So we're going to cut all of that out. So we are going to cut along the score line, the 1/2 inch score line that we put on the 4.5 inch side. And then we are going to rotate, and that score line that's closest to the pocket, or what is going to become the pocket, we are only cutting up to that 1/2 inch score line. So there's what we cut out. There's what we had. And we cut it out. So we're only cutting this far. So I'm going to repeat it over on this side. I'll draw it again for you. So there's the score line. There's that 1.5 inch score line. Maybe if I say it like that. Okay. And then this is that 1/2 inch score line we put on the 4.5 inch side. I'll move my hand here in a minute. And there's what you've got. Hopefully you can see that. Yes, right there. So we're going to cut along the score line till we run out of score lines. Let's do it that way. And then we're going to cut up at that 1.5 inch score line. And it leaves you like that. So there's what you're ending up with. That's what it should look like. All right. And hopefully I'm not going to bleed all over my project. I just poked myself with my scissors. Hopefully not. We'll soon find out. Now we've got to do some mitering. First things first, I want to miter that 1/2 inch tab that's along the bottom. So the 1/2 inch tab that was on the 4.5 inch side. Just a slight miter. And I'm going to do that on both ends. I'll show you everything I've mitered once I'm done. Okay. Then I want to miter only this 1/2 inch tab. So that last 1/2 inch. So there's our work laying with the 11.5 inch side along the top of the scoreboard. And you guys are going to have to give me 1 second. I need to go get something. I should keep some Band-Aids right here. Hopefully I can get it stopped. I just poked myself with the scissors and it is bleeding. So we'll just give it a second. So while we're doing that, I'll just try to explain what I'm talking about here. So that 1/2 inch score line. So when we scored it on the 4.5 inch side, I've mitered what was left. Now I've turned it on to the 11.5 inch side, and the only 1/2 inch tab I'm going to miter is this very last one, the one that we're going to actually be gluing down. So I'm going to miter it here at the bottom and here at the top. So let's see if that works. Okay, we're going to keep rolling here. I've never done that in a live. Oh well, there's always a first. So I just 1/2 inch tab at the bottom, 1/2 inch tab at the top, and rotate to the other end, and okay guys, I gotta go get a Band-Aid for it, so you guys are just gonna have to hang out here for a second. I apologize. I will be right back. Okay, I'm gonna leave it like this so you can see what I've done. I'll be right back. I'm back. Just need to put it on. If I don't put a Band-Aid on it, I'm going to have probably blood on the project, and I don't really want that. Silly thing. Should pay more attention to what I'm doing. There we go. All right, we're good. Sorry about that. That's the joys of doing lives. So here's what we're left with. We've mitered the 1/2 inch tab at the top and the bottom, and we've mitered the 1/2 inch tab that goes along the bottom of the pocket. We've left these two 1/2 inch tabs alone because that's what makes the accordion. So that's what's going to make this. And the only reason you miter this last one is so you don't have as much bulk and it's easier to fold up the bottom 1/2 inch tab and adhere it down. Okay, so let's do the glue. So there's a little glue. Let's do it on both sides. That's the easiest. We don't want glue there. You only want that glue on that last 1/2 inch tab because you want your accordion pocket. So I'm just going to hold it for a second. And then I'm going to lay it down and give it a little bit more burnishing. And this is what you've got. So there's the back side of it, all folded. And then this is it this way. So this is what we're going to be adhering into the book. You know what? Awesome. You're going to love it, Susan. I love, love, love mine. Hi, Cindy. I absolutely love it. It is one of the best tools I have gotten in a very long time. That I can say that, you know what? I am going to be using this one forever. And I didn't tell you the one nice feature is it actually is USB. There's a USB plug over here. And you don't have to keep it plugged in all the time. And you still have light. And it has 3 settings. So I saw a sad face or an angry face. I hope that's everybody's okay. Anyway, so let's adhere this pocket into our organizer / journal, whatever you're going to call it. And I always like to dry fit, and I'm happy with that. Now you want to make sure that you keep it away from your fold where the book is going to fold. And I'm happy with that. So let's add some adhesive. And you kind of got to put all the adhesive on at one time. So I do the sides. Because if you follow me, you know normally when I'm putting a pocket down, I adhere the bottom, then I do the sides. So this is the one time I don't add any sellotape, is when I've got the accordion. But I also have more space, and I don't seem to run into that problem of things getting in my way when I'm trying to slide the photo mats into it. All right, so I'm going to do this. And because I'm using the liquid glue, it's going to give me time to make sure everything is nice and square. And my pocket looking good. I think I might want to. I'm going to pick it up because I just need to see. So everything's nice and square. I'm happy. And I do tend to put my pocket down first and then put down the flap, so that I can be lining the flap up with the pocket. Give it a good burnish. Burnish it well. So there's your pocket. Now, if you don't want a flap, you could leave it like that. I want the flap because I want to make sure nothing falls out of my pocket. So the flap is going right on the outer edge. So I'm going to turn my book sideways so I can work with it closest to me. And like I say, I love the light because it lets me see. And I have to, it was not me that thought that that was the good idea. It was a friend of mine that was at the retreat, and I was kind of looking at the glow, kind of going, should I or shouldn't I? And it was her that said to me, I think it would be really good because you've got the light coming up behind you. And as soon as she said that, I knew I had to. Well, thanks, Heather. I'm hoping you guys will make a ton of them because they're super quick. They're the perfect gift to give to somebody that has everything. And journaling is so popular these days that that's the other side of it. And you can customize it then for the individual. So burnish. burnish. Now I'm going to round the corners on this flap, and I'm going to turn it sideways again so you guys can actually see, and like so. And then I'm going to add my magnets. Now you could, I guess, use one big magnet. I've decided that I was using these two smaller magnets, and it's perfect. So I need one negative. I need two negatives. And then I need the other side of them. And I'm just going to let them adhere together for a second so I don't lose them. Okay, put my magnets away. Now, take them apart. Don't lose them. Now they're stuck together. That's perfect. I'll put them up here so I don't lose those, because I am notorious for losing magnets. Now, what I like to do is I like to put the magnet on the pocket first and then put it on the flap. And I kind of use my thumb as a guide, about a thumb's width down, or, you know, this part of your thumb. The first digit, I guess, is what I'm going to call it. And then same thing about there. I'm happy. So now we're going to put a little bit of score tape on top of the magnet. Not really sure who taught me that one. No score tape. There's no tape on the back of that one. Oh, I know what happened. And then the other side. We're almost done. And it's like 2:14, like an hour and a half. And when you're not talking the way I'm talking, you'd have this done in no time. One. And here's the second side. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay the flap down gently. And I always do it gently so I don't skew it. Just me. And adhere some more once I find the end of it. This is like 1/8 of an inch tape that I'm using here. You could use whatever you have on hand. If you don't want to use any tape, don't use any tape. All right, so there is the flap for the left inside cover. And then we're on the front of the book. Now we're not going to adhere this pocket down yet. So let me just bring in my finished project, which, oh yes, is sitting right here. Duh. You want to put your pattern paper down first, and then you want to put the pocket on top of it. So all I'm going to do is we're going to make the pocket, and then we're just going to set it aside. You'll do your decorating, then you'll add the pocket. Okay. All right. So the pocket's on the front cover. We make this pocket exactly the same way as we made the pocket on the inside of the project. So we have two pieces of cardstock, one that measures 4 by 7, and that's the base of the pocket. Then we have one that measures 6 by 7. So with a 6.5 inch side, or 6 inch side along the top of your scoreboard, you're going to score at 1/2. Then I'm going to rotate to the 7 inch side. And this is where we are going to score at 1/2, 1, and 1.5. And then we are going to rotate to the other side. So we still got the 7 inch side across the top of the scoreboard. We're going to score at 1/2, and 1, and 1.5. Now, You want to know how big to make something? You know, you want a pocket that's 4 inches. So it's 4 inches and you add 1.5 inches on either side. So it's a little like making your spine. Whatever size you want your pocket to be, then you are going to add 3 inches to it. So if I want a 5-inch pocket, this would have been 8. 1.5 inch on one side, 1.5 inches on the other side. So that's just another little info piece I'm going to give you. All right, so let's fold on that bottom score line. And we are doing exactly the same thing as we did on the accordion pocket that was on the inside. I'm going to fold on the score line that's closest to what creates the pocket. So there's the pocket, like so. And then I'm just going to gently fold back on those 2 score lines, turn it over, and burnish. I'm not going to go as slowly on this particular accordion because we've already done one together. So again, fold back on those 2 score lines on the other side, turn it over, and score. And there's your pocket. And now we're going to do some cutting. Because I find when you do it as a 2-piece mechanism, so what I mean, so you've made your pocket and then you make this accordion piece and you adhere it to the pocket and you adhere it to the base. I always find that I sit there and go, okay, am I doing this the right way? This, when it's all one mechanism, just works so much easier for me. All right, so again, we're going to cut on that 1/2-inch score line. So that's that 1/2-inch score line we put on the 6-inch side. Remember, we scored at 1/2 on the 6-inch side. I'm cutting up just to that 1/2-inch line. I'm rotating it and I'm cutting out 1, 2, 3. So that's your 1.5 inch. There's your 1, and there's your 1/2 inch. And I'm cutting right through until I get to the 1.5 inch score line. There's 1, rotate. There's 2. Now, then we've got to do some mitering of the 1/2-inch tab. So I'm mitering that bottom 1/2-inch tab. And then I'm only going to miter the last 1/2-inch tab. And I'm going to lay this out so you can see it. Once I clear my mess away. There we go. So there, we are looking at this with the 7.5-inch side, or the 7-inch side across left to right. We've only mitered the last tab. The last tab, I got to miter it down here at the bottom too. And we've only mitered this part of the 1/2-inch tab that was along the bottom. So I also have to miter here and here, like so. There you go. So miter, miter. So just on those last 1/2-inch tabs on the 7-inch side. And then you only miter the 1/2-inch tab that's left on the 6-inch side. Hope that makes sense. And I'm going to fold it all back into position. And I'm going to fold up the 1/2-inch tab. And I'm going to add some adhesive. So I'm adding it just to the 1/2-inch tab we mitered. I'm going to move my hand here so you can see. There's where I've added it to, only to that 1/2-inch tab. And then I'm holding it down and I'm carefully folding up. And I'm going to hold it for a second. You could use your pegs, you know, the clothes pegs that Tammy uses. There we go. And now I'm going to give it a good burnish. Just making sure it's nice and flat. And there's what you end up with. And there's the base of this pocket. And so all we're going to do is we're just going to adhere this to the base. So I'm going to add some adhesive to the bottom 1/2-inch tab of my pocket. And you can even do flat pockets like this too with adhering the bottom. I know lots of people that's the way they do these, their flat pockets too. I just prefer to do it the other way that I've showed you in other tutorials. So you've got your adhesive on, and then all I'm going to do, and again, like I say, this being able to see where the edge of my paper is has been a game changer. I'm loving it. And then I'm just going to turn it over and make sure that I'm really happy. So I have that time to maneuver things, and I am. And then I'm going to take my burnishing tool. And again, I'm just going to give it a good burnish. And I'm even going to turn it over and I'm going to burnish it from this side. Don't get too pushy because depending on if your adhesive has adhered enough, you could still move it, that base, the pocket on the base page or base piece. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to round the top of the pocket. Reminds me a little bit of a library pocket. And then after my pattern paper has been put down, I will add my pocket, and that's your finished project. So what did that take us? That took us less than an hour and a half, and that was with me talking crazy and showing you the glow and all the other wonderful things I always think I have to tell you guys. So there is your project. I cannot wait to see you guys post pictures of this project. It is a super easy Christmas gift. I used 5 sheets of cardstock, so 12 by 12 cardstock, 5 sheets to create it. Then I used, like I said, I could get away with 4 if my paper wasn't directional, but because my paper is directional, I kind of had to use 5 and a bit. Oh, and the self-harm. Yes, the self-harm. Wasn't on purpose, wasn't intentional. It just was what it was. Me and the scissors weren't communicating. Have you seen how pointy these scissors are? They're pointy, and I stabbed myself with them. So for those of you that came in late. So, and then I had to go get a Band-Aid. So when you go back and watch this, there's a little bit of time in there where I can't edit it out because it's live. So I apologize for that. Anyway, I hope everybody has an amazing rest of their Friday, has a great weekend. Hopefully it doesn't snow where you live, but if you like snow, snow away. And we will see everybody on my next live. I definitely won't be here next week. I have a commitment. I'll try to get something together for the week after. Yes, you got to be careful. These are dangerous. Scissors are dangerous. Okay, have a great day, everybody, and an awesome weekend. I'll see you on my next live. Take care. Bye-bye.